Welcome to this episode of ICMA's Education and Training presents Let's Talk Markets. Hello, I'm Nicolette from ICMA, and today I'm speaking with Peter French, a chartered financial planner, and I'll be asking Peter whether we should be having more conversations around investing for retirement. Peter, you've been involved for many years in supporting individuals and firms. Are you able to tell us a little bit more about the types of individuals and firms you've helped support in preparing for retirement?
Well, as you say, I'm a chartered financial planner and I've been a member of the Chartered Insurance Institute for 50 years. So I've dealt with a very wide range of employee, from the local car wash to parts of Unipart, parts of banks, all people from all walks of life. When I started in the industry, and we call it an industry, the majority of pensions were compulsory pensions set up by employers, where the employee was put into the pension scheme whether they wanted to join it or not. It was a decision made for them, so they didn't really have to think at all about the future. It was taken care of for them, except not all employers had to do that. Employers had a choice whether to set up any pension scheme at all. The people that did not have an employer pension scheme to join then had to look into what to do for themselves. And the options that's been available to them over the years has changed dramatically.
So is it usual for people to have very little understanding about pensions and investing for retirement?
Yes. The reason being that it's always viewed as being very complicated, as being something which is too difficult to understand, therefore we tend to veer away from things that aren't easy to pick up. And it's that education that is gradually improving over the years, but it's still got a long way to go.
And does it matter if people aren't informed?
It doesn't matter if they know the intricacies of pensions. You don't have to know how a car works in order to drive it down the motorway. But you do have to know, to put petrol in the car to make it last the journey. And with a pension, you've just got to be aware that you need to be saving for retirement, and it needs to go into an efficient tool for it to work for you in retirement. You don't have to know all the ins and outs of that tool from the beginning. You evolve. Your knowledge evolves as your needs evolve.
Have you noticed a change in attitude towards saving for retirement? And has auto-enrolment changed the conversation?
There has been a change of attitude because of circumstances have changed dramatically for most people. The cost of living is significantly higher, the cost of buying housing considerably higher, and people, if they become aware of retirement, know they need to do something about it. Auto-enrolment has proved very, very useful in waking people up to the fact that pensions exist. Because if you look in your payslip and there is a deduction on that, you tend to take more interest in what that deduction is for than if it was coming out of your bank account and you just have to remember a direct debit every month. The fact that it's an employer deduction from your pay makes you ask why. And if you then follow the conversation, you can get into the, am I doing enough? Is this going to be sufficient for retirement? What else should I do? What else can my employer do?
And is it important to start investing for your retirement early in your career?
Very important, because the earlier you can actually start saving, bigger the final number at the end of the day you have in your pension pot, which will determine your standard of living in retirement. It's a fact that somebody who saves for the first 20 years of their life and never saves again will still have more pension than the person who starts after 20 years going through to retirement. And it's simply because of the effect of compound growth on the money from the early years. It creates a bigger pot. The bigger the pot, the better the pension.
Wow, that's just incredible. And I wonder how many people are aware of that or understand that. And do you think that therefore this is a conversation that we should be having earlier, perhaps when people are in school?
Schools can be overloaded with a requirement for equipping school leavers when it comes in walking into the workplace. I think schools need to be talking about financial planning as a whole. They need to be telling people what a bank account is, what a mortgage is, and how savings work in the long run in a generic format. Going beyond that, I think, is a responsibility in many respects of the future employers and the person themselves. They need to take responsibility for their actions.
Is it that investing for your retirement and pensions is just too complicated?
It would appear so, but it's not in practice, because if you look at investment as simply being a savings vehicle, it's somewhere to put money that you're not going to touch for a very long time. The actual tool of a savings plan, whether it be an ISA, pension or whatever, it's just a piece of paper and you have money going into it. It's relatively simple to say what risk factors you want to take into account where that money is being invested, and you can just leave it to other people to make the investment decisions. You don't have to be doing all of the investment yourself, but you have to be aware that these things exist and are necessary for your long-term wealth.
And have you seen an increase in investors wanting to do good with their investment at the same time as making a financial return?
It is a question that comes up more often in recent years. As it happened, I worked for the very first company that introduced a completely ethical biased fund, and it was interesting to see that the demand for that it grew very slowly initially, but has now gathered a pace. And people do ask, but whether they do anything about the answers is another matter, because you do have to constrict your investment parameters if you're going to look down an ethical based style investment. You can't just turn around to somebody and say, here's my money, put it wherever you like on the stock exchange. You've got to give them parameters as to where that money should be invested. And I think more information needs to come back from the industry, from the investment industry, as to exactly how they do determine which companies are ethical, moral, whatever, and which companies are just out to make money.
Does it matter if individuals leave investment decisions to the experts and simply just check their statements once a year?
It matters less than if the individual does nothing. It's better to have money being saved and being invested for the other professionals to take control and responsibility for the actual investment of that money than to not do anything at all. So no, I don't think it matters if people follow to the minute detail where the money is invested. They just have to know where to be able to access the information on what fund it's invested in. Does it fit their ideal, or just leave it to a default fund which is often selected for them. But it needs to be, the money needs to be saved and invested. That's the most important part.
My final question to you is, at least in the UK, the retirement age is increasing. What does this mean for young people?
It does mean it's the state retirement age is increasing, which means that you get to live on state benefits at a much later time in life. So you have to create enough pension fund or enough savings, whether it be in a pension policy or wherever. You have to create enough savings to be able to take care of yourself without ever relying upon the state, so that when the state pension comes in, that's a bonus, that's a bit that takes care of an inflationary aspect to your retirement, because it's an increase that comes in at a later date. So your retirement age is not necessarily different now to what it was 30 years ago. You could still be retiring at 60 or 65. It's just that you don't get the state supplement until you're 67, 68 now. You have to therefore save more and earlier to compensate for that extending gap.
So it's even more important that young people take responsibility
very much
for
so.
investing for their own retirement.
Yeah, and also there is they've got to take advantage of the tax reliefs and what have you that are available when you're saving for retirement, because the tax reliefs and that are there in order to create a favourable incentive for you to put the money away where it's locked away, because you can't touch it again until you're 57 in the UK, because it is for your retirement. It's not for your access next week for a holiday. So it's very important for younger people to start saving as early as they can, because then they can save little, they can stop sooner, so that when they get to an age where all of a sudden the financial responsibilities of house, family and what have you come in and overwhelm your income and your budget, then if you've got money already tucked away, then it will work for you during the period when you have to divert your money elsewhere, and then you can restart later. The flexibility of pension planning is the one thing that never gets put across sufficiently, and I'll blame the media for that.
Thank you. I think that's a really interesting and important point to finish on. So thank you very much, Peter.
My pleasure.
For your time today. Thank you.